Hey everyone, welcome to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Sackhoff Show. This episode is so wonderful and I cannot wait for you to hear who it is. But first, I want to remind you to stick around for the Hindsight, where my producer Jeph and I talk about the episode and everything going on in our lives right now. Tweet, tweet, little birdie, it's my birthday. So we'll talk about that. And make sure you send your comments and your questions and all that good stuff to the sackoffshow@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. All right. This week's guest is none other than the wonderfully talented Sonequa Martin-Green. If you don't know who she is, she's in Star Trek Discovery, The Walking Dead, and the new movie, My Dead Friend Zoe, which is available to rent everywhere right now. It's a phenomenal movie. I highly suggest that you watch it. I literally ate this movie up. I loved it so much. Her performance is just extraordinary. We talk about the movie, we talk about Star Trek, we talk about life and kids, and it's a really wonderful conversation getting to know her a little bit better. We have so many mutual friends in common, and we've met briefly a few times, but this is the first time that we sit down and really get to talk. And I am better because of it. So enjoy the episode. I am absolutely going to get out of your way so you can do so, and just enjoy my new friend, Sonequa Martin-Green. Hi. Oh my gosh, you look gorgeous.
Aw, thank you. So do you.
Oh my gosh, it's been a while.
It really has.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
You always seem to have such a positive outlook and uplifting sort of like persona in interviews. Where does that come from? And do you feel a responsibility to what you put out in interviews?
That's a really good question. Thank you for that question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I think that I'll answer the latter part of the question first. I do think that, especially at this point in my career, I do feel that I have a responsibility to it, right? I feel like every time I get an opportunity to speak where lots of people are going to be listening, I take it seriously, every single time. Because like you said, we're here to connect, and people really do change us. We change each other. We really are able to make each other better. We really are able to uplift each other, and so I tend to be positive and kind of lift it up as much as I can, in my normal life. And so way back when I first started doing interviews at the beginning of my career, it seems like a lifetime ago. Mm-hmm. I think at that point I was, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, trying to establish a brand, right? Trying to establish an image. I was also so excited to be there. I was so excited for the success and all of that. And so that's where it started. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, my faith in the Lord began to necessitate it, because it was like, hey, people are listening, so put good out there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now I would say that I feel a responsibility to it.
Yeah. Your faith seems incredibly important to you. And I read an interview where you said that you try to and I might be paraphrasing, and I'm sure I am, but you try to be Christ-like in your life and in your, did I read that you said in your career as well?
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Ooh, Katee.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that question. Yeah, it is the most important thing to me. And it is also it's the lens through which I see everything. My normal life and my career and my marriage and my children and everything is through like Christ glasses, right? Um, and so it really means so many things. But if I could categorize it under one, big heading, it would really be about love, I think. And trying to live a life of love that is real. Trying to live a life of love that is not just in talk, but in deed. And that is not easy, because I've said this before. We often mistake love for this sort of like convenient, cute little thing. But love is sometimes the most inconvenient thing, the most uncomfortable thing, the most painful thing. So really trying to live a life based on that is the overall heading, or maybe I should say the root of the tree, and then these other branches that come off of that. And there's so many ways that affects the decisions that I make.
Life would be a lot easier if you didn't love. Because
yes,
nothing would hurt.
Nothing would hurt.
You would feel no.
You'd be so like,
nothing.
all about me.
Yeah, you would feel nothing. God, there would be, oh my Lord. There are times in life where I was like, I wish I cared less. I wish I could love less in this moment. But I can't. It's because I am very, very much the same way,
Yes.
Because you have played in your career, from Walking Dead, Star Trek, the new film, which we will talk about. Like,
Yes.
You've played such strong, complex women, and God, I love them. It's what I love to play. So I see your characters, and I'm like,
done.
You get it. Yes, I love it. How do you find your characters, and was that purposeful, or did you sort of, end up in these strong characters and without the luxury of choice in the beginning of your career?
I did not have the luxury of choice in the beginning. You're, bang on with that. And, a lot of us don't. That's just sort of how it goes usually. And so it just is what happened, right? In the beginning. The first strong role that I played that was a breakout for me, the first breakout for me was Toe to Toe, which was this indie film that ended up being a grand jury prize nominee at Sundance 2009. And I was playing this, it was a coming of age story. Emily Apt, brilliant director and writer. She had spent a long time writing this script, and it's this coming of age story about these two girls in DC, that are friends despite a racial and social divide. But this was a strong girl, and that's where it all started. And then with Walking Dead, I found myself on that show in that role. That was space that was made for me. That I was just blessed with. It was just a blessing. I really feel that I'm not the one that says I deserve everything I got. Like, I don't It's great if you feel that way, right? I can understand it, and I can appreciate that, but I don't really carry it that way. I am acutely aware that everything that I have done, everything that I have has been given to me. Um, given to me. So, I had originally auditioned for Michonne, and Denai Gurira, she got the role, and it was the perfect choice. She's one of the most brilliant people I know. And then Discovery, same. I auditioned for Discovery, and it just worked out that way. I do love these strong women, but I would say another sort of through line that I've seen with these women is these women that I've played is that um, there's always an exposure of vulnerability too, which I love. Because I'm not interested in playing strong women who have no vulnerability.
Well, I have always said in my career that the vulnerability is actually what makes them strong.
Thank you. It's like, yes. And my idea of feminine strength has changed over the years. And I would wonder the same thing about you. I'd wonder if you feel this too, but the older I get and the older my children get, the more I settle into my femininity and my womanhood, and the more I am sort of just innately drawn to strength through softness. And I think that's such a gift of femininity is strength through softness. And the older I get and the older my children get, the more I put down the masculine shield that I've had up for so long, right? And that's a lot of my characters have had too. And so even redefining how I see strength as a woman, that's something that's been a process of a growth journey that I've been on, and I was able to put a little bit of that learning that I was going through in Burnham there in those last couple of seasons, especially. But that's such a beautiful way to look at it, that because of your vulnerability, you're strong. I think that's spot on.
Did Walking Dead in a way prepare you to be number one of a show? Can anything prepare you to be in the number one of a show? Like, what did you learn that you took with you from that?
Oh my gosh, yes. I learned so much. I think with every experience, with every project, with every role, I can look back on it, especially once it's over. Hindsight's 2020 and all that. But I can look at it and see how everything prepared me for it. Everything before it prepared me for it. Like, oh, and that's why I did this, and that's why that happened, and that's why, da, 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 da. But Walking Dead, my goodness, it was so obvious to me, even as it was happening, even as I was in the midst of it, that it had prepared me for it, because I came into Walking Dead when it was already this massive success. It was the middle of season 3. I think it was the middle of season 3 that I came in. So it was already this Goliath. It had already broken all these television, rating records and stuff. And I had to jump onto this moving train. And I've likened it before to that train scene. I think it was in the first Divergent, where she just has to jump on the train. Yeah, like that's how it felt. It was like, oh snap, okay,
And who was there to grab your hand and help you on, though? Anyone?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my Lord.
Well, you know what? They all were, right? Because that was a show family, right? And I had only done, guest stars and recurs on TV up to that point. And so I jump onto this moving train, and everybody is there to bring me on and sort of like, all right, it's good shots. You made it on the train. Let's go. It was like that. And what I saw was the power of show family.
Yeah.
I saw what is possible when the cast and crew are bonded. And it was astounding to see. Even though, it doesn't mean that things were perfect. It doesn't mean it was a utopia. Obviously, there were all kinds of things that we were dealing with. And there was all kinds of conflict and everything. It was a very difficult show to shoot. But the bond, man, I saw that it made people, it enhanced creativity, to put it simply. It made
you feel supported.
Yeah, it made people their best. It made each and every one of us, it gave us a clear path to operate in excellence. And I saw that, and that cemented into my heart and my mind, like the possibilities of this oneness, this unity, this synergy. And I also saw Andrew Lincoln. I saw him lead with integrity and passion and fervor. And I said, oh, okay, and we all marveled at it, and he just made us rise and led by example, and which of course is the best way to lead, is by example.
Right.
Sometimes so much can be accomplished without one word, just an example, right? But I did see that, and I loved it, and I would say to myself, man, it would be so lovely if I ever got a chance to do this from the beginning, to be a part of something like this from the very beginning, and nurture it and build it. And then, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks after I wrapped Sasha on Walking Dead, I was preparing for Discovery, and I think it might have been 4 weeks tops. I was on set. It was so fast.
Wow.
And I suddenly was like, oh, it's my turn. Right now. Right now. Okay. Okay. And I turned it out to be a very different leader than Andy was, but that doesn't really matter, right? It's like, of course we were going to be different because we're two very different people, but it was just the example of leadership. And so it was like, so what kind of leader am I going to be? Right. And I would say to everybody, it was a sort of mantra, more like a mandate. I would say, the only star is the story, and we're a family. And everybody said yes, which is also remarkable, because it doesn't have to happen that way.
No.
But everybody quickly was like, okay. And I've said this before too. I was so shocked by that. I was like, oh, okay.
This episode is brought to you by Masterclass. There's nothing like gaining a fresh perspective from experts who have seen it all and have the wisdom to prove it. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 plus of the world's best. It's just $10 a month billed annually. A membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every single instructor, not just one Masterclass, all of the masterclasses. I just found Neil deGrasse Tyson's Masterclass on Science. I am so excited for this one. I've just started it, and the one thing I can tell you about this class is that he makes science understandable. I can promise you, making science understandable is one of the hardest things ever. I've had to say things that are so hard to understand. He makes it really easy. Our listeners always get great discounts on Masterclass of at least 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/Katee. See Masterclass's latest deal, at least 15% off, at masterclass.com/Katee. That's masterclass.com/Katee. Don't wait another moment to start your learning journey with Masterclass. This episode is brought to you by OneSkin. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that OneSkin has been a sponsor for a while, but that I absolutely love this product. I personally use the eye cream, the face cream, and the body cream every single day. It is super easy to use. All you have to do is wash your face, pat your skin dry, and apply this twice a day. Before finding OneSkin, I was using so many products on my face daily. I was getting confused. I sometimes had to write it down. And what I love about OneSkin is it is just that simple. It is those two products that I use. I wash my face, I dry it, I put on the face cream, and then the eye cream, and that is it. My skin is smoother, it is tighter, and it has a visible appearance of a more youthful look. That has absolutely been because of OneSkin. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code Sackhoff at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code Sackhoff, Sackhoff. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Give your skin the scientifically proven gentle care it deserves with OneSkin today. How did you institute that, though? Because from the lead by example, which 100% agree with you, and number one sets the tone. I mean, I've always said that. How do you then make sure people know that that's the game they stepped into, that they're playing on day one? Because it was so quick, you said.
Was so quick. Well, I think it started before day one because it started with my intention. Bringing it back to those lenses that I see everything through. I knew that I wanted to be Christ-like in my leadership, and I knew that meant that I needed to be a servant, because the greatest leader is the greatest servant. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be looking for every opportunity I can to serve. And that was what I came in with, coming from that perspective. I said before, it's all about love. But it's about reaching across and connecting, like we said, but it's also about, even though this sounds really lofty, it's about like bringing heaven to earth, like everywhere, just like as much as possible, right? How can I bring heaven here? How can I bring heaven here, kind of thing. So day one, it comes from everybody that you meet, and, knowing that you're meeting a family member, knowing that you're meeting a show family member. Sometimes I feel like I have to make that distinction because I'm not delusional. Like, we ain't like family, but show family.
You ain't getting a kidney.
Yeah. Like, we don't share blood. Like, okay. And, it's not even like a chosen family situation, like those closest friends in your life. A show family is it's another designation. It's like another thing. Because you do end up spending more time with these people than your real family and your chosen family. And it could be over the course of years.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about it. And you do go through the ups and downs of life together. And there's death and there's life and there's sickness and there's celebrations. And like your lives are so intertwined for, hopefully for years. It was about that. It was about like, hey, we're just making sure that is understood at the moment of introduction. And then it's having the energy to implement this, like you said, this tone of, we're going to work as hard as we play, right? We're going to work as hard as we can, but we're also going to play as hard as we can. Yeah. And then another big thing that I did was I established camaraderie, or at least I did my best to, outside of set. So then it was like, okay, I think some of these bonds are going to happen outside of set. So it was about, running game nights and playing group games where we quickly felt like we were, together. It was about making sure that whenever we were all together, like specifically for Discovery, it was on Bridge Days. It was like, this is a party. And making sure that everybody feels that. It's also it's like it's a party, but we're working really, really, really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
As well,
And
right?
it goes for 16 hours.
Exactly. But then it was also about making sure to be there. It's like I also have to lead by example and be that sort of first one there and first one there, last one out. And I have to show that there is never going to be a moment where you're in a scene by yourself, where you're looking at an ex, where you're, anything like that. It's like, I don't care what time it is. I am going to be there. And then people see that and they go, oh, okay, so that's what we do.
So I got to be there too.
And it's like when you're done on the show, I don't care if it was only a day or if it was a week, if it was for the length of this episode, or especially if it was, a recur, then it's going to be a big deal when you leave, and we're going to celebrate you, on the way out as well. So it's those kinds of things and so many others, but those are sort of the first ones that come to mind.
How do you, speaking about mom guilt, how old are your children?
So our son just turned 10 in January, and our daughter is, she'll be 5 in July. So is that 4.5? 4.5.
So how do you, because God, being a number one takes all of your time. Sure. And as a mom of 2, I know being a mom takes all of your time. Yeah. So how do you juggle that? What are you doing? How are you learning to juggle that?
I definitely had to learn as I went. It was excruciating.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. I remember those first few days let me not say first few days. I'll say like those first few episodes. I would go to my trailer, when I had a moment to do that and cry because I'd be like, oh my goodness, like, when am I going to see my son? And it's like I knew, but actually experiencing it was another thing, right?
Yeah.
And he had just turned 2 when we started shooting. And oh my goodness, like the mornings where he would just cling to me and say, like, Mommy, I don't want you to go. I just want you.
I know.
It was really, really, really difficult. And what I ended up realizing is that I don't even know when I realized this, but I was not going to be able to do all the prep that I wanted, right? Ideally, I have prepped to the nines, like just everything that there is to do, created this rich life and all that. But what I realized working, especially in season 1, when we were working, 18, 19-hour days, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this because if I'm working 18 hours, when I go home, if I work on what's set for tomorrow, when am I living? When am I a wife? When am I a mother? When? It won't happen unless I give that time wholly to my family. It's all I have. Especially considering Fridays, getting home at, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. All I have is that chunk on Saturday and then half of the chunk on Sunday because I got to get to bed early because I'm up at 4 for it to all start over again. And so I had to make peace with that. And I had to say to myself, if the work suffers, and it will inevitably, but it is a price I am willing to pay because I have to find some kind of balance somewhere. You know? So a lot of times I would learn what we were doing that day in the chair in the morning because
that's what I did. I literally had
same question.
My husband he would be running dialogue with me while I was holding a baby.
Yes.
And So I could feed the baby. I would walk in the door and he would hand me the baby. Like, because he knew,
yes,
this is your time. Like, you take this time. And then he would, God, he is a godsend. He brings the kids where I am.
yes,
Because that's what gives right now. And it takes a village to raise children, but it takes a man having a supportive partner who sees, I don't even know how to say this. He sees the big picture.
Yeah.
The big picture of career, the big picture of family unit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how we support each other. And it's constantly changing.
Oh.
But I had someone at work running lines with me 100% of my day. When I wasn't working, there was a person, I had a shadow that was like, do you want to run lines right now for tomorrow? I was like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And we would be memorizing the dialogue for tomorrow today.
Yes.
So I could go home and not have to. Because you're right. I had to separate the two fully, and that was very hard.
It was
very hard.
And like you said too, it's like there's all these other things that you can do logistically, like I we decided that we would always travel as a family. It's like so we split our time between, first it was Atlanta and LA, and then it was Toronto and LA. But the family was going to stay intact no matter what. We were going to make sure that we were always together. And the fact that my husband, like yours, saw that big picture and knew how important it was, and did everything that he could to lead his family, keep his family glued together. And then I'm so grateful for Discovery for this, but I had a whole other room set up for my son, right? With toys and all this stuff, so that, he could come. And then I also had my sister. My sister was our live-in nanny for 4 years. Wow. And so she was like a proxy mother for them.
Love it.
And I'm so great. Like you said, it takes a village. I'm so grateful for her, even though there was tons of mom guilt between me and her, because I would come home and, it would be I would be so grateful for her, but then I would also be so jealous at everything that she had witnessed that day that I did not. And then by season 3, I was pregnant with my daughter. And so then when there were 2, my goodness, and I'm pumping at work. I was pregnant all throughout season 5 of Walking Dead with my son. And then I was, I think I was around 8 months when we wrapped season 5. And then I was breastfeeding all through season 6. And, with all my stuff and equipment, like on location in the woods, and like,
oh my God.
I remember one time we were shooting at a quarry on Walking Dead in season 6, and I was pumping at my chair, but there was dust everywhere. And when I had like the bottle, I was just like, bless it, Lord. I don't know.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Here you go. It's just a little dust. It's okay.
Fine. And so same season 4 of Discovery, I'm like, how long do we have between setups? Is it 10 minutes or is it 15 minutes? I really need to know. Do you know, like, okay, then I gotta go pump and it is really difficult. As you were saying, it's really, really difficult. But what's funny, and I wonder if this is the same for you too, but if I were to ask my son, I feel like I've done this, he does not remember it.
No.
At this point.
No. The crazy thing about this, and we learned this through our daughter's health struggles, children lack the ability to remember until they're 3.
Yeah.
And then they start forming memories. Now, is someone going to say, I remember something before 3? Sure. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will in the comments.
Yeah.
But you actually don't, the brain doesn't have the ability to remember before 3. So, in our context, we were like, if this is over before she's 3, she won't remember any of it.
Exactly.
God, that would be amazing. But that is the same thing. My mother-in-law said to me when I felt so guilty. I was back at work within days of her joining our family. Now I didn't carry, so very different circumstances, and we've talked about this, but I had so much guilt, and at one point I was just standing there like shake sobbing. Because I was like, I wanted this baby so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not home. Like, what did I have this baby for, And she literally said to me, she won't remember you're not here. She will never remember it. You will. So you need to change your frame of mind. You'll remember it. And I was like, oh, got it.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
And I just think that that's profound and such a blessing that I'm just so grateful for. And I feel like in making the time that I did have with them, and I know this was the same with you, it took everything out of me, obviously, but I packed it, with just so much quality. It was like we were doing everything together. I was coming up with all kinds of interesting, creative, and fun things that we could do together in those few hours I had over the weekends, and in those as the call time would shift later and later, over the course of the week, I would sacrifice my sleep to be able to be up with them and get them see them off to school or get them to school and all of that, and I think that when it's quality time, they remember it.
They remember the love.
They remember it. They do. They remember
being supported. Yes. 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 I love that. I love that. I love talking to other working moms because it makes me go, okay, all right. It's okay. You got this, mama. It's okay.
Exactly. Not to mention the other stuff that you always hear people saying, which is it's important for them to see you, operating in your gifts. It's important for them to see you operating in your calling. We tell our kids all the time, we believe this is what we've been called to do. And, we communicate our joy about it. We communicate the sense of duty that we feel to it because husband's an actor as well. And we're like, this is really important work that God has us doing, and we love it, and we want to serve, and we communicate that now, especially now that our son can really grasp that. And I think that's a part of it too, where it's almost like, hey, you're a part of this. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for supporting, mommy and daddy, as they go out, and then there is a sense of what I'm hoping is that he gets a sense of ownership in it. Too,
So I want to talk about My Dead Friend Zoe.
Yes.
Because I believe it segues perfectly from you talking about the work that you're doing and the positive work that you're doing in this film. Amazing.
Thanks.
I mean, the subject matter, hard topic. I'm just so just moved by the whole project. My dad is a veteran. How did you find the project? And I noticed that you were an executive producer on it. So were you involved early on?
I wasn't.
Okay.
Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, who directed, co-wrote, and produced this, based this story on his life, right?
Yeah.
This is an autobiographical dark dramedy, And it's, in his own words, 93% exactly as it happened.
Wow.
Except there's a Black woman playing him.
Crazier things have happened.
Yes. But he wrote me a letter in March of 2023 and told me all about himself. Gave me his backstory. He was a staff sergeant, actually received a Bronze Star, and wanted to tell us his story, but also wanted to honor two battle buddies that he lost. So he wrote the feature first, then did a short, just to, get the concept out, get funding. And he wrote, Zoe represents basically the two battle buddies, as in one character, right? And the carrot is obviously him. And he said, he told me that Ed Harris was attached. He told me that he wanted me to, serve as executive producer, that he wanted to offer that because he wanted contribution. And he said, and I wanna tell this story to save lives. And I've been saying this, over and over again, throughout our press run, because that's what got me. That seared right into my soul. It was like, I'm sorry, what? You want to save lives? And the thing is it's not dramatic when the veteran Bronze Star staff sergeant says it, because he understands and has lived it and has witnessed it with so many other, fellow veterans. And so he said, I think that this is something that you would want to do. I get the sense that you understand the service component of this industry and of storytelling. And so I want to ask if you'll stand with me.
How did he find you? Do you know?
I think he went through my team. I think so. I think he just looked up my reps
But it was work that you had done that that spoke to him?
I think it was. I think he had seen, he at least had seen Walking Dead and Discovery, or some of it. But then I think he had also, he had seen a lot of interviews.
Okay.
And was like, I think from what I've seen of you that this is the kind of thing that you would be down for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was so right.
Ed Harris first, huh?
Ed Harris was the first one. Yeah, and Ed read it, and Ed is so matter of fact. I just love him so much. But he read it. Kyle did the same thing. Sent him a letter through his reps, and Ed read the script and I think saw the short, and they met at a restaurant and shared a tuna sandwich. And Ed was just like, all right, well, I read it. I think it's good and I think it's important and I want to do it. And so Kyle said he slid back all the, he had a stack of stuff that he was going to show him, photos and, he had all these things. He was ready with his big pitch, but Ed was just, I want to do it, and he's like, great,
Your relationship with Natalie Morales in the film is such a unique, fun relationship.
Yes.
Was that on day one? Did you guys develop that over time? Did you have time to do that, or was it just instantaneous?
It was instantaneous.
Yeah.
It was. She's great. She's phenomenal in so many ways. I just love her so dearly. And I think she's brilliant. And we met at the read through and we loved each other immediately. It was
beautiful.
Yeah, we were fast friends. We looked into each other's eyes and we were like, oh, bet. Yeah. Go, And so thankfully, it was brilliantly written on the page, the chemistry between the two of them. But then also, Kyle was open to, because Natalie and Ed co-executive produced as well. The three of us co-executive produced. And so we were in on it. And there were just a few things that we introduced as far as the friendship goes between these two women. We introduced lots of things all across the board, but as far as the chemistry between the two of them, it was sparking off the page. But then we also saw that there were some subtle things that could elevate it, because here you have two women. So this friendship is based on two men, but the two women are going to speak just a little bit differently to each other. There's going to be some differences, and so we did implement those. But yeah, it was just so easy with her and I, and a lot of that has to do with just who she is. And also a lot of it has to do with her command of her craft and the story. So it just made it so easy.
Yeah. Kyle's writing and then your acting, your and Natalie's acting. I mean, everyone is brilliant in the movie, but the moment in the film, a best friend of mine took his own life about 7 years ago now. Was not military. But the thing that struck me that was just your portrayal was so moving, was at the very end when she can't, the guilt of not picking up that phone, the guilt. I think that's so poignant with people that are left behind, because every single person always says, there had to have been something I could have done. Like, what did I miss? What a beautiful moment when your character, says, but she would.
Yeah.
She would have forgiven me. Because she would have. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. What impact do you hope that the movie has? Because I know you guys are really hoping to help people.
Yeah, 1000%. I just thank you for sharing that. And man, that's serious. That's serious pain. I'm so sorry that happened. And you also, in sharing that, you really highlight something that we talk about a lot. We talk about how this is not just for veterans.
Yeah.
People, what we're finding, and this was the goal too, but what we're finding is that people have all kinds of reasons why they connect. For some people, it's a similar story as yours, unfortunately, where they know someone who was not military, right?
Yeah.
There are people who are not military, but they have military friends who did. There was someone I spoke to last week who was touched by the Alzheimer's story and felt like, he felt like he was represented because he had gone through that with his mother. And, there's so many things represented in the film, right? And something that Kyle set out to do was encourage people to talk about it. He wanted the film to be a conversation starter, but he wanted people to see themselves, and he wanted people to be able to he wanted people to be encouraged to just like start the journey of healing. Just like start it. And you start it by talking about it, right? And he says that in his journey of as post-traumatic growth, that it was talk therapy that was so integral for him. And we've had Vietnam vets who a few who have said, well, I'll just speak of one who said specifically, I've never talked about it, but now after seeing the film, I think I'm finally ready to. And, I spoke to a Marine veteran the other day who talked about how he's afraid to let go of the survivor's remorse because he says, it drives me. What am I going to do without it? Man, I really hope, like you said, I really hope that it helps. And I really hope that for people who are carrying around the shame and guilt from being left behind, who are finding that forgiving themselves is the hardest thing to do in their lives.
Yeah.
Man, I just hope that they're pushed a little bit closer toward healing.
Yeah.
And freedom.
I do want to question.
Yeah.
That the current cuts to the VA.
Yeah.
Have a potential direct impact on soldiers. What do you suggest people do if they find that lifeline and that essential service is no longer available to them? What are your concerns, and have you guys talked about the impact of those cuts?
We have not.
Okay.
We have not talked about those cuts yet. We know about them. We were going to have an event Saturday night that got canceled because of the cuts and because of protests.
Okay.
And so, but we haven't had deep discussions about it yet. I will say that I am not familiar. I'm still, even after all of this, only remotely familiar with the VA.
Okay.
And I've heard a lot about the VA from veterans. And man, how do I say this? I don't even know if I have a right to say this. I hope that I hope that something is established that is even better. Maybe that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that the VA has let a lot of people down at times.
Yeah.
So I know that it's not black and white.
Yeah. I remember on set, and I just told this story recently, on set in the Music in the Park scene. I was speaking to a veteran. I believe he was a Vietnam veteran, Army. And he was saying, there's 90% of the cast are veterans, and so they would just talk to us. They would just answer all of my questions. And I was talking to him about his journey when he came back, and his post-traumatic growth journey, and he was he was in his 70s, and he had really gone through it, and he said, it does something to you. It does something to you when you come back and you are, shunned. Like, it really does something to your brain. He was like, you've already gone over and experienced things that are not human. And he said, and then you come back and you're forgotten. And he was like, and it really, it really, really screws your brain up.
Yeah.
He was like, and I think honestly, that's one of the hardest parts about it. And he's not the only one that I've heard that from. And so I think that, listen, as humbly and respectfully as I can, I will say that I think that there has to be a holistic approach. Um,
Agreed.
and I think that we civilians can play a part in that too. Um, I spoke. Here I am. Yeah, okay. I have so many. Thankfully, fortunately, I have so many conversations I can refer back to with veterans. But I spoke to another veteran who was just like, oh yeah, he was like, veterans weren't even treated well until the 90s. He said, I think he got out in like 90. I forget what year in the 90s. I'm not even gonna like spitball it, but he said, he was like, and even then I was told to walk it off.
Yeah.
And that was the case for so long. And I think that there's still, even now, a little bit of that. And I think especially for civilians and how we see veterans, they sometimes feel dehumanized by civilians because we think that they are either, heroes or just totally broken, or we deify them, or we just make them feel other, and we don't listen. And I learned that too. And I think that this is all a part of that holistic approach, because what I've learned from them is that people will not actually listen to them. And I wonder if your dad would say this, but, I've heard from many of them. They say that, people will ask them questions and then glaze over when they start to answer those questions because it's uncomfortable. And to the point where this one Marine vet was like, so I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody because you're not actually hearing me, And then even Kyle had said before, he was like, oh yeah, I made the decision a while back that I would just be like, yeah, war was hard.
My dad never talked about it. Yeah, never talked about it. It's just one of those weird things that my dad served in Vietnam. We all know, but we don't really know anything.
Don't know anything.
Do you know if there are any organizations doing good work with veterans right now that are helping that are boots on the ground helping?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we have the impact partners that are attached to the film. One of them being the Mission Continues, which is a great resource. All three of them are, but the Mission Continues, especially because their goal is to give veterans, basically to help them frame their lives back home, so that they feel that the mission is continuing.
Yeah.
Because they turn into such pivotal, or not pivotal, but pivotal. They turn into these pivotal, members of society who are contributing so much wherever they are, right? It's like they're teachers, they're coaches, they're, some might even get into security. And my nephew is one of them. He started his own security company. He's an Army veteran, and they become these obviously productive members of society. But the Mission Continues helps them and walks them through that. And then Kyle started a group for veterans who want to get involved in media. And the VME is the acronym. And why am I blanking? I believe it's Veterans in Media and Entertainment. But VME, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 98% sure is the acronym.
Okay.
But, he started that as well. And there are resources, right? I think that there should be more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there should be many more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, speaking to your connection to the story too, this is also a mental health conversation, right? Because it isn't just for veterans; it's for non-veterans as well who are struggling and
Absolutely.
who are losing sight of themselves and disassociating, and people whose their shame and their guilt is so big that it's sort of taking over their lives. I think we could do better listening to them too, because I think a lot of times with veterans and non-veterans too, we sort of leave it to the professionals, right? But I think that we can step up and do what we can too. And there's all these organizations that you can get involved with, but I learned how to get involved just on an interpersonal level. Kyle has said before, call up a veteran in your life, invite them to lunch or something. Say, tell me a sad story, tell me a funny story, and tell me, how you felt, and just listen. And he said, because, we actually do want to talk about it. It has to be the right circumstances. And, we do want to be heard, when we talk, so.
Yeah.
There's a special message at the end of the film, and people can they can scan a QR code and donate whatever they want, even if it's just $1, and it goes directly to the Bob Woodruff Foundation, which is also an excellent resource for veterans. And we have already given out, let me see, as of a week ago, so there's no telling how many more have been given out now. As of about a week ago, we've given out something like 400 tickets to veterans so they can go see the film for free.
Oh, I love that.
So that's been happening. So seeing it in the theaters is a great way to support. And then we don't know what will happen after that, but we're super grateful that we were able to get a theatrical release.
And the last thing is, I ask a question from a box because it's this box is a better interviewer than I will ever be. And it's a rando. It's like a rando question. Light blue are the least thought-provoking. Dark blue are the most thought-provoking. So how are you feeling?
Gosh, can you close your eyes and pick?
Absolutely. Here, and I'll spin the box too, so I don't even know what side it ended up. Okay, here we go. All right. Wait, do I have two? I do. Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
All right. Oh, what is something that actually went right for you recently? It's the light blue side.
It's light blue, right?
It's the light blue. Okay, what is something that went right for you recently?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Let me see. Let me think of something light as well. Something light that went good for me. I made something recently.
Ooh.
So I decided that I was going to learn how to make the perfect grilled cheese sandwich.
Stop.
And I did. I'm a big researcher. So I researched for like 2 days. I was watching some of everybody, all the chefs that I could find on YouTube talking about, how to make the perfect grilled cheese sandwich. So I took everything that I learned from them and I came up with an amalgamation of all of them. Mm-hmm. And I made it. And it was so good. And
amazing.
It might be the best I've ever had. It might be.
I'm a big fan. Whenever I had a sick day from school, my dad always made me grilled cheese sandwich. Do you have your grilled cheese with something else all the time? Like, do you dip it in ketchup? Do you have tomato soup? Like, what's your thing?
That's a good follow-up question. I actually don't. I have my grilled cheeses by themselves.
Okay.
But listen, like aside of tomato soup, I mean, what's better than that, right?
It's
so
true.
I'm not against it. Okay. But I normally just have them by themselves.
Okay.
All right. You have it with ketchup?
I have my grilled cheese. I will do it with I love grilled cheese. Sometimes I will open them up after they're grilled and put chips inside of it. Yeah. When it's still hot, so you can still open it and then crunch it down. Sometimes I'll put pickles in it. Sometimes I'll dip it in ketchup. Sometimes I will literally make my grilled cheese and I will cut it in little squares, and then I will fry it again really quick and then use it as croutons in my tomato soup.
You on another level.
You were speaking my language. When you brought up grilled cheese, I was like, yeah, so good.
And again?
So good.
And use them as Yo, that's gotta be one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard about cooking in general.
I think I learned it on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
It was so good. So I highly suggest do that
when
sometime.
you fry it again, what do you fry it in?
Butter.
Okay.
Just copious amounts of butter at all times. It's like
butter. It's a beef sandwich.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. That's what makes it. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the success with the movie because it's so good. It's so good and such a wonderful topic.
Yeah.
So
thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you. I absolutely love your work.
Oh, thank you.
You are brilliant. And I think you're also beautiful. So thank you. Not that matters, but
I'll take it.
But yeah, this was a beautiful conversation for real.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you having me and asking the questions that you did and being so open. And, this was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, gosh, my pleasure. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you in Indiana and give you a hug.
Yeah. I'm going to squeeze you so hard. Do I have permission to squeeze as hard as I can? It's not going to hurt.
At all times.
Okay,
it's okay. I'm good with that. I'm used to at this point with children, like hugs being like slightly violent.
Yes, they are. They are. They really are. It's so funny how we have to do that, especially as your kids get bigger.
I know. I get like, I'm like a shuffle ball change away from a bloody nose at least twice a day. Like, it's fine.
The amount of times my son has almost knocked me down and I'm like, oh, and my daughter too, she's really strong, even though she's small.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Have an amazing rest of your day. And thank you so much for taking the time. It means a lot.
Oh, thank you, Katee.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hindsight. I'm still Katee Sackhoff, and I am joined by my producer and the person I drag into this every week, Jeph Porter. Hi.
Kicking and screaming. I'm here.
Literally kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Kicking and flipping screaming. It is my birthday, Jeph.
I know. I mean, it's not actually your birthday as you and I talk right now.
Yes.
But I feel
like
I feel like you're sort of hoodwinking me into wishing you a happy birthday a month early right now.
I am.
But if we can put on the guys, happy birthday, Katee.
Thank you so much. Officially mid-40s.
Mid-40s.
Like in it. No denying now. You're like in it.
Yeah. Do you feel like in your 40s? Because I just turned 41. And I feel like nobody cares. Even I don't care because it's 41.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Like when you're in your 40s, it's 40, 45, and 50. The only ones people care about.
It's true.
So this is one. True. You got a birthday people care about.
I am in it. It's strange because no, I do not feel 45. There is no part of me that feels 45.
Yeah.
Including when I hang out with other people that are 45. I'm like, you old. Like, it just doesn't.
Any of those people
compute.
Listen to this podcast?
Probably. And it's just a very strange thing. I mean, society has changed exponentially since our parents were 45. We all know this. And so many things go into aging to the best of your ability, like, physical activity, how you eat, environmental circumstances, how you treat yourself, your stress, like your community. Like there are so many things, like your job, your emotional and financial stability. Like, I mean, there are so many things that play a part in youthfulness.
I thought it was interesting that, I mean, you've talked to many women like this, but she seemed to have a similar trajectory in her career, in the sense of like playing certain stereotypical parts, but then finding their way into these sort of stronger women roles. And, I think I was just telling somebody recently about what you had told me about, when you got Starbuck and how that was really important to you. And it seemed like Sonequa had a similar feeling with Walking Dead. And like, she talked about how she didn't really have much of a choice in her career before then. And I mean, I know you've gone through similar things where when you're just really starting off, you're taking what you can get, and it may not necessarily be what you want, but, So I don't know. That was an interesting parallel you guys had.
Yeah. It's, I think that people want to think all the time that actors choose every role that they have, and it potentially came easier than it did. That luxury of choice came easier, but it does not for the majority of people in this industry, men and women alike. Yeah, it comes after years of struggle. Years of building a career and a fan base out of the industry and inside the industry, of people trusting in you to make, to benefit their project, but also that you need the financial stability to be able to say, I don't want to do that one right now. And that takes years of saving money. Yeah.
Yeah. I think somebody once said to me that works in the industry that I previously worked with, that she didn't know how to do interviews and press, because they would always ask the question, what drew you to this part? And she said she always wanted to answer, I needed a job. Yeah. But you can't say that. You have to be like,
I think you can.
Yeah, now you can.
Yeah. Because that's what it is, I mean, it's I always say that I'm at a point in my career right now where once a year I need to do a job.
Yeah.
A job.
Yeah.
The remainder of the year, I can choose what I want it to look like. But once a year, I need a job.
There was a great story that came out recently in the wake of Gene Hackman's passing, where I think Ben Stiller told the story because he worked with him on the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes.
And he was telling him about the Poseidon Adventure. Do you remember that movie?
No.
About the boat, the cruise ship that flips over on its upside down, and they have to like escape it as it's sinking. It's a movie from the 70s that they actually remade fairly recently. It's a Gene Hackman movie. It's a fun movie, but it's an action adventure movie.
It's a fun movie?
In the sense of like, if you like action and drama and...
But do people die?
Oh, I'm pretty sure people die.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fun.
But I mean, it's like any other disaster movie,
Okay.
Blockbuster disaster movie type thing. It was a big blockbuster movie in the 70s, right? And Gene Hackman stars in it. And, in the 70s, Gene Hackman is one of the greatest actors. He's doing French Connection, The Conversation, all these movies that are just blown out of the water.
Did you know he didn't get his first starring role till he was in his 40s?
I mean, it's incredible. I think Samuel L. Jackson is a similar way, too.
So is Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
To be a man.
Times are changing, Katee. But Ben Stiller telling him about Poseidon Adventure and how much it like inspired him, wanted him to make movies, get into the entertainment industry. And I guess Gene Hackman looks at him and just goes, money job. Because he's like, Gene Hackman was like, at that time in his career, could probably pick and choose what he wanted, but somebody probably came to him and was like, do this shitty movie and we're going to pay you a shit ton of money. And he was like, fine.
Everyone's for sale.
Yeah.
If the price tag is large enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as you're not selling your soul.
Absolutely. And it's all relative. That price tag is different for every person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have turned things down before because they were shitty. And people I know have taken them.
Hey, have you done a money job?
Yeah.
Anything you want to mention?
Well, we know I did Law and Order.
true.
That was an insurance job.
That was an insurance job. That was I need to feed my children job.
That was I need
to make sure my
child
children
going through cancer treatment can't lose health insurance right now.
Yeah. Money job.
Which is another sad fucking state of our country. A money job. Well,
I know when you were younger, you did, what was the Sentinel one you did?
Oh, yeah. That wasn't a money job. That was because they would let me do all my own stunts. Like jump through windows and shit. Like into airbags.
They were like,
you're not allowed to do that.
They were like, we don't have to hire a stuntman? Great.
Yeah, you're not, they don't, I wouldn't do them now.
Yeah.
I can't think of one where I like specifically was paid so much money
for something you just didn't care about.
You know, it's funny. There was a movie that was going to happen about a year ago that didn't happen. It was during the strike. It ultimately ended up not happening. That was a money job. I mean, like 100%. And then it didn't happen, and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
That sucked.
We gotta
that
get
stung.
you
I was like, shit, that would have been really fun.
We got to get you a money job. Yeah.
Not the job.
Yeah. The money. I mean, that's why you do it. Emphasis on the money.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
This movie, you didn't get to watch My Dead Friend Zoe, did you?
No, I did not.
I found it interesting that it's been a number of years since my friend Keenan took his own life. And there's this moment when the movie was over, My Dead Friend Zoe, where I just started sobbing.
Yeah.
I was downstairs, I was working out while I was watching the movie, and I literally had to stop because and not like pretty crying, I was sobbing.
Right.
It was a release for me because there's this one line in the movie, and we talk about it with Sonequa, where I'm paraphrasing now because it's been a couple weeks since I watched it, but she's talking about basically like, I will never forgive myself for not picking up the phone, but you would forgive me.
Right.
And I've struggled with that so much.
Yeah.
Because there are so many times where I didn't pick up the phone when he called me. And granted, subsequently, the next time I picked up the phone.
Right.
But we're always so busy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about people that struggle with this, is it's never the friend you think it's going to be. So there are times, and I know, you know, you can't always look at hindsight as a completely different thing where you can look back and say, that was the last time I should have picked up the phone.
Right.
And I've struggled with that tremendously my entire life without him, because I questioned what I could have done. Like there had to have been something I could have done.
Right.
And I have never forgiven myself for that, but he would have forgiven me.
Right.
And that it was cathartic for me.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good movie. And her, both performances are just breathtaking.
Yeah. Well, it's available now if people want to check it out.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. And Ed Harris and Morgan Freeman are in it.
It's great. What more can you ask for?
I mean, what more could you want? So, anyway, what else? Anything else?
The only other thing was you guys talked a little bit about when children could make memories. And
yeah, did you look this up?
I looked it up and you were mostly right. You know, they don't start making them until about 2 or 3, but then really 5 to 7 is when it really starts to stick. But what I found interesting was, according to this Scientific America article, there is young children can likely make long-term like memories, but these memories typically fade after a certain age or stage of brain development. So basically, they can make memories at like 2, 3, 4, 5, but those memories go away.
Right. So the older she gets, the further away from the memory she gets, and she will forget it. Interesting.
Yeah. There's also something I read, there was a really great episode of Radio Lab, you know that podcast, Radio Lab?
Yes.
Where they were talking about memory and how memory is so associated with novelty. Because it's like, when you look back at high school, everybody talks about this, like high school is only 4 years, but it feels like it was so long and so formative. But then like at our advanced age, Katee, 4 years goes by just like that and we don't even think about it, you know?
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's because when you're in high school, you're having so many new memories, new experiences. So they stick in your brain, where the last 4 years of my life have mostly been similar things happening over and over again. You know,
Do you remember high school?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, that's because you're 45.
So in 4 years, you'll forget it too.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
Yeah. You have
Not
no
really.
memory of it?
I have some memory of it.
I don't remember
certain
every
things.
day,
I don't
but-
remember people. I don't remember people's names.
Do you still talk to anybody from high school?
No, not really. A couple people, a couple girlfriends that I sort of like faded away from and then sort of came back. Keenan was the person that I always spoke to.
Yeah.
He's Keenan was best friends with my brother, and my brother was sent away to boarding school for a year. And Keenan, all of my brother's friends became like my brothers, but Keenan was also held back a year. So Keenan was then in my grade. In high school, he like fucked off so much that he didn't get out. So his last year was like my senior year as well.
Sounds like you remember some of high school.
Yeah. So I have a lot of memories with him the last 2 years.
Well, that's nice. Those seem worth it.
It's all worth it.
Yeah.
It's all worth it because I have those memories with him. But yeah, I don't remember anything.
Well, maybe the rest of it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I know. Oh well. It happens. Should we get into the mail sack?
Mail sack. We're going to the mail sack. Mail sack. Why are we calling it mail sack?
I can't move as much as I normally do, Jeph, because my chihuahua is right next to me.
It's that comfy chair and the chihuahua.
Well, that's the downside of this new beautiful chair.
Yeah.
Is that the chihuahua can fit in it.
Aww.
And he's in it all the time.
Where can people email us?
You guys send those comments and questions to the sackhoffshow@gmail.com. Like I said in the beginning, we love to hear from you. And yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah. We'll also look at comments on YouTube and sometimes on your reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. So 5 stars or we shame the shit out of you.
I haven't looked in a while, so maybe we've got some more good ones or some bad ones.
So Fred, you guys, I don't have my glasses on.
Freddie Lawn
148 says Starbuck was for Ron what Tom Bombadil was for Tolkien.
Do you get this reference?
No.
Are you a Tolkien Lord of the Rings fan?
No, Robin was.
You should ask Robin if he understands what this comment means.
Bombadil is that character, right?
He's the character that's in the books, but is not in the movie, who is completely unexplained. Nobody knows who he is, what he's supposed to be, or where he comes from, how old he is. There's just no explanation, and Tolkien never gave any explanation for him or who he was. But he's very powerful, has magical abilities.
He's in the new show, though.
He is in the new show,
and
controversially
Robin actually
in the new show.
Didn't think he was cast well.
He's just doesn't really. I mean, that new show has all kinds of problems. I've enjoyed watching it, but
yeah, me too.
They're really just playing fast and loose with the canon, and putting Tom Bombadil in it felt more like a fan service of some kind, to fan service that fans didn't want. Like Lord of the Rings fans are the wrong fans to do fan service to, because they really want textural accuracy, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's the only reason I know who that character is because Robin was so disappointed when he saw the way that it was put together. But I as a whole and he as a whole enjoy that series for sure.
So they're saying that Starbuck is much like Tom Bombadil.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that.
Unexplained, magical powers.
Oh, my dog's jumping down now. Oh, good. He's out of the way. All right. So Vader 47,000 says Galactica 1980 had humanoid Cylons. So that concept didn't actually begin with the reboot. G80 may be forgettable, but it's there.
So that's also connected to the next email we got. So if you want to read that.
James says, So I was listening, and the stipulation was put forward that Ron said no humanoid Cylons because he created them. In fact, on Galactica 1980, there was a humanoid Cylon. It actually aired in April of 1980, according to IMDb, Night of the Cylons. I'm a big fan of the pod. I drive a meat truck around and look forward to a new show every Tuesday. I'll leave you with the famous see you next Tuesday. Thanks, James. I love that you drive a meat truck, and that's amazing.
One thing I was going to point out that I found very funny about that email was he's talking about humanoid Cylons and then said he drives a meat
truck.
And it feels like that is what humanoid Cylons do.
Yeah, it does. It also sort of, in my mind, I was thinking he's like driving dead bodies around.
Yeah, maybe we need some clarification, James.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, are you talking about a hearse? Like, What are you talking about? You drive a meat truck.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do we know that this is factual?
So I did some research. There is an episode of Galactica 1980. It's called The Night the Cylons Landed, which James thought it was the Night of the Cylons, but it's called The Night the Cylons Landed.
Okay.
And there is a character named Andromus, who is a humanoid Cylon. The description of the episode is pretty hilarious, and I think points to why Galactica 1980 maybe wasn't the most successful show.
Please read it to me.
Andromeda, how do you say his name? Andromus's fight crash lands in New York. He takes Centauri, the only other survivor of the crash, a second Cylon android, on a mission to transmit a distress signal back to the Cylons. He and Centauri attend a party where they meet Wolfman Jack. Do you know Wolfman Jack? He's a real-life radio DJ.
Yeah.
Centauri is disabled by radiation. Centauri is disabled by radiation from a microwave oven. Andromus uses his red beam to destroy the microwave and sets fire to the apartment, allowing them to kidnap Wolfman Jack by employing his powers of persuasion.
I don't know why it didn't win Emmys.
But here's the little detail that I think comes out in Ron's favor of this.
Yes.
Is in the notes, it says, Andromus is the first instance of the concept of a humanoid Cylon in the Battlestar Galactica universe. The concept would be revisited to dramatic effect 23 years later in the reimagined series, although those Cylons wouldn't be androids, but biological creations. So the difference...
Oh, yeah. So the difference is
yeah.
so that you're saying that they were humanoid Cylons in 1980, but they weren't. They were machines.
They were robots made to look like humans.
Whereas our Cylons are actual humans.
Actual biological flesh and blood humans that were just created by the Cylons. So
Right. Yeah. Got it. And not just a machine with a skin on the top of it.
Correct. So that's the difference.
So I understand these people's confusion.
Yeah. How could you be confused by this? It's so clear.
Oh my God. I just,
Yeah, this is just me at the very end of the episode having to inject a huge amount of nerdness into this because we spent most of this talking about motherhood and children and...
It's true. So for anyone who's made it this far, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I believe I tried to watch at one point like the tiniest bit of Galactica 1980, and I was like, this is so stupid.
Did you do any of, when you got Battlestar originally, did you watch the original series at all?
I tried.
Yeah.
So I put it on, and at that point, I did not know that Starbuck was a man. So I put it on, and the moment I realized that they were talking about Starbuck, not because she's a woman and she wasn't in the scene, but because Starbuck was a man and it was right in front of me. And it was Face from the A-Team. I turned it off.
Yeah.
Instantaneously. Because I was like, number one, it was terrible, in my opinion. But also, I was like, I'm not going to watch this. It will immediately get me in my own head, and I'll start trying to pretend to be Starbuck instead of just being her and making her my own. Right.
And it was such a different interpretation that it didn't really, what was it going to do for you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a completely different show. It's a completely different show.
And then since then you said, I will never watch anything Battlestar related ever again.
I do think that I should watch the show at some point.
We got a lot of comments.
It's really hard to start something that is like 80 hours.
Yeah.
When I would much rather not watch myself and watch some of the other really great projects that come out on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of comments on the episode with Trisha about how you need to watch it, and people want you to watch it with Trisha, but Trisha's already done that.
She did it. She did the show.
Yeah.
The rewatch show. So
yeah,
it exists. Go find it.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it again. All right, you guys. That's everything. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday.
We'll see you next Tuesday. And that's what's up.